come. Plus your chance to impress us with some impersonations of your own.
First, back in Duke, they wrote to us saying that their 3 children had been taken from them by social services after it was thought they were harming them.
They claim their child's injuries were due to a form of brittle bone disease which runs in the family, but all 3 children have been adopted and they have no idea where they are. Nikki is currently 8.5 months pregnant and she doesn't know whether or not she'll be allowed to keep her baby when it's born at the beginning of June. Nikki and Mark join us now along with solicitor George Hawkes and Denise Robertson. We read the initial letter that you sent to us last year with horror. Our mouths were open. And unfortunately, for the purposes of this interview, we have to call your children by letters, child A, B and C. You're happily married, you have 3 children. Child A is nearly 4, child B 23 months old, child C 3 months old when all this happened. And child B, the middle child, had been a difficult delivery, and so therefore there were health issues.
Yeah, right from the moment he was born he had, problems. He developed lactose intolerance and had real bad infantile eczema. Every feed he'd, throw it straight back up, and so we had to put him on soy milk, and he was fine with that. But after a while we realised that, he wouldn't tolerate any solid food. If we did in fact manage to get any in his mouth, he'd, vomit it straight back up. So.
But other than that illness, those difficulties, a happy child?
Yeah, he was a very happy child.
What was it that took you to hospital that started this ball rolling?
Well, all 3 of our children became ill with like a flu virus, and our middle son, he took a long time to recover, and he stopped walking during this period. And the doctors reassured me that, he was fine, he would get back on his feet eventually. But, we got to the point where we were really concerned because he wouldn't even stand to let us dress him. So we took him back to the doctors and, they referred him to a hospital. And it sort of went from there.
In hospital, they x-rayed him and discovered multiple fractures.
It did take them a couple of attempts to find them, because to start with, they kept saying, no, we can't find anything wrong with him, and they sent him home.
And this is where the terrible story starts to just unravel, because they found these multiple fractures, no outward sign on his body, bruises or cuts or nothing like that, but presumably broken legs, which is why he couldn't stand, and all sorts of things. Yeah,
they found a small fracture in his left ankle, which
was stopping him.
Yeah, they said it was an unusual fracture.
And what also could have caused the fractures is that your family has a history of brittle bone disease.
Yes.
You don't suffer from it, and it's always been thought that unless the parent actually has the disease and has signs of the disease, if the parent doesn't have that, the baby will be all right.
Yeah.
And this all hinges on whether it might have passed a generation and gone to your eldest son, child B.
Yeah.
What did they do?
They said simply, if I didn't have it, there is no way that my son could have it.
Is there a test you can do, a blood test or something?
There's a DNA test that you can do.
Did they?
No.
So how did they say to you, how did they know that you hadn't got it if they didn't do any tests on you?
They said as I didn't have any clinical, we've never been ones for physical discipline. We found that all, Mark ever had to do was slightly raise his voice, and that would be it, they would stop what they were doing.
Did you think at any stage, at what point did you think, I'm never going to see them again? When did that become apparent?
I think it was very early on, wasn't it?
You could see you had this accusing look. You just knew something wasn't right. The way everybody was looking at you, and social workers and everybody, it was just accusing.
Your children were sent for adoption. Your little son, the baby son, went first because babies are easier to place.
Yeah.
the last time you saw them all was in 2004, the day before your daughter's 4th birthday, I think.
Yes.
And as you drove away, you saw their little faces at the window.
Yes, that was the hardest thing that we've ever had to do. It's hard to imagine, you know, if you're leaving your children with somebody for an hour or so, you know, while you go shopping, and, you know, they make a fuss, you worry about it, but it's not such a big issue. But when they're upset and you're leaving them for the final time, it's one of them situations that it never goes away.
Were you told not to cry?
Yes, I was told that if I were to cry in front of my children, it was emotional abuse.
What now? I mean, you don't know where they are. They're gone now. Those 3 children.
You have word of that they're doing well and that they're safe and they're okay. But in the interim, do you know whether your eldest son, who had the fractures, has he had subsequent fractures? Do you know if...
You don't get to find anything like that at all.
You know, they're not obliged to tell you.
You've had a test done, haven't you?
Yeah.
When do you get the results of that test to find out whether or not you're a carrier?
It's supposed to be within a month, so, you know, hopefully within the next few weeks.
And then in the next 2 weeks this baby's going to be born, your 4th child together.
Yeah.
Do you know the future for this child?
No, being perfectly honest, we're both desperate to know what their plans are, because, you know, they haven't been in touch with us. They haven't let us know, you know, one way or the other what they're planning to do.
So this child may be taken from you?
Yeah, worst case scenario would be, you know, for them to be waiting at the hospital.
Denise, in years to come, you wonder whether this is going to be one of those things that we look back on with deep shame and say, how on earth can this ever happen? This is what's described as a hostile adoption without criminal proceedings. You showed me the letter a year ago and we couldn't believe what we were reading, and you said, no, this happens.
I get a letter like this every week, and I'm not a fool. Half of the people who write to me probably deserved to have their children taken away, and we do not immediately look and say, oh, scandal, scandal, let's get it on the telly. We talk to people, we make judgments, we take our time. These are two, in the best sense of the word, ordinary people this has happened to. Just ordinary people living a happy life in their home. All of a sudden, and in my opinion for no good reason, and all the media are taking it up now, they're talking about this case, and are we all fools? Am I a complete fool after 30 years experience that I believe them? And when you look at what has happened to them, you see all the times that somebody could have stepped in and made a proper judgment. I think in years to come the family courts in this country will be a huge scandal.
George Hawkes is the solicitor, and this whole business about the law is an ass is absolutely true, isn't it?
Well, it's a lottery. That's the problem, and the reason I should emphasise I wasn't involved in this case at all. I got involved through Denise contacting me because she was so concerned at the letter. And when I read it and met Nicky and Mark, I mean, I had exactly the same view as her. These are ordinary people who the system's let down.